Next up, we have Mr. Satish Babu. Satish Babu M is the founder and the managing director of TechMark Training India and TechMark Private Limited Singapore. He has extensive experience in leading operations and driving business growth in the developing economies. He will speak about the Developing Tech Acumen Academy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share some of my experiences. I know most of the audience, I think they're tired and left, and as the previous speakers were mentioning, that it is very challenging post lunch to keep the audience engaged. Actually, there is a mix-up in the topics because it's not going in a flow. I was supposed to be talking about developing tech acumen in academia, and since the other speakers are supposed to be leaving, so there is a shuffle. Developing tech acumen in academia, I thought instead of repeating what already the speakers have mentioned, I thought I would share with reference to the academia or the students' perspective, because there are a lot of students in the morning. But before that, I would like to share a joke that we used to, I was sharing this about 20 years back, which seems to be very valid even now also, that happy is the man who has American salary, English house, that is British house, Chinese food, and an Indian wife. Unhappy is the man who has an Indian salary, British food, Chinese house, and an American wife. I don't mean to really offend any of the American friends, but it looks like that is very much, pretty much the same even after 20 years of, passing by. We are still, the economy is still run by the American dollars, and I hope the times will be coming where, happy is the man who has Indian salary, Indian house, Indian food, and Indian wife. So hopefully soon we will be coming, we will be proudly saying in the near future, the evolution of technology. So my objective is that, as I mentioned, that I thought probably I'll address the academia and the students' perspective, because they need to build up the acumen of the, technology acumen. So I thought I'll just quickly, take you through the journey of how technology has started. As we all know, 1960s, we are like a baby, where, pretty much, it is pretty, no activity whatsoever in the technology. 70s, we have television channels, where, or rather we have radios and probably tape recorders at the time, and then 80s, we have television channel. I remember black and white television channel, Diana, when I was a kid. And then, that's when, we started to get ourselves spoiled by the technology. So that's where the culprit started there. And then we eventually got into 90s, which is the web, which is the internet. So where we all know the communication has started with the web. I remember having a Hotmail account in 90s. As we know, in 2000s, we have the technology that pretty much connected ourselves, as it is mentioned in the image here. And now, at this point in time, pretty much everyone is, pretty much, connected virtually, and the technology, we are like a grown-up. The maturity has come, and if you compare the life of a child to a grown-up, the maturity has come in the technology, where we are immersing ourselves with the technology. So while this is the case, there is a confusion between the words digitalization, and technology. So I just wanted to quickly define, so that sometimes I might be using digital technology, or digitalization in terms of a technology. So digitization is nothing but converting all these analog the books or the scanning or whatever to the ones and zeros, which is basically converting into soft copies. Digitalization is the process of using the technology to to kind of process whatever processes that are there in the businesses, The using of the technology to digitalize the processes of the businesses is digitalization. And technology, definitely, they are the tools. In the world, as of now, the digital economy is expected to go to about $3.4 trillion in the, by 2025. And second largest, adopter of the technology is India. And as you can see from here, that 45% of the companies are not really geared up of the latest technologies. And however, 89% of them are pretty much embracing, embracing what is coming and trying to, get the technology in place. But as we know that India is one of the forefront, kind of countries in the global economies, especially they're right now in the second top. I mean, India, we are in the second top position, in terms of digital adaptation. And also, we are in the top countries in the adapting the technology in the key areas, as you can see, in the screen. One of the major milestones of the government is the, Aadhaar card, and I think we are one of a kind in the entire world where such a population at such a huge scale got digitalized, and then including our retina scanning till the fingerprint scanning. So in that sense also, we are far kind of advanced compared to many other countries doesn't have this kind of a database. So India is one of the largest data ecosystems, as we know that there is almost 2.5% increase in the phones, usage of the phones, and about 10 times increase in the digital transactions, and another 60 times increase in the mobile data consumption. So if you can see, there are a lot of everything is, the humanity is kind of submerging with the technology. As one of our friends were saying the other day, that artificial intelligence, once it comes into the real, like robotic kind of intelligence that comes, where if we have to completely depend on it, it looks like there might be a time where robots might be overriding our instructions, and then they might be actually not really following our instructions. That is when one of these guys were saying that might be the time where we might have to immerse with the technology. That means we might have to, kind of have, certain chips probably installed in our brains and things like that, probably to compete. So we are, humanity is eventually heading towards that direction, where the accountability, where it looks like, if you're seeing the office, environment, companies now, the management can easily track how much is the productivity of you, how much time you spend, and how much, how much are you really productive in terms of, the worth of the pay that you're getting to number of hours. I foresee that we will be reaching to a time where we might have to be, kind of answerable even for the thought process that might be happening. That means even when the thought is generated in the brain, then probably the chips would be kind of, sensing it, and then it would be actually assessing it, what is the thought and what is it behind, then therefore whether it is productive or not. So, we are heading into that kind of environment. So there are so many, key players in the market, and Indian government is aiming for a $1 trillion, $1 trillion digital economy, especially focusing on one of the two areas that government is focusing. One is on the training of the students, another one is on the technology part of it. I mean, the hardware and the software part of it. The whole transformation of the technology, I think we should give credit to the great, recession that happened in 2010. And later, the great, pandemic which has happened in 2020. After that, we see the phenomenal, we all know how technology has come into, our, help to carry our life and all that. So everything is basically based on technology. So what is the technology acumen? It's basically that ability to understand the technology and taking the leverage of the technology and to address the business, problems or the business processes is nothing but technical acumen. So I would suggest the students who are here that unless and until, not irrespective of whichever background you are from, unless and until you have the technical acumen, everything in the days to come, whether you communicate with your team members or whether you communicate with your, with your colleagues or with your clients, or whether you wanted to do any transaction, whether you want to do any process, everything is technology. So there is no way that you can escape, the technology, and it's one of the crucial skills that they were expecting. I mean, everybody, the management or the founders are expecting in all the, processes of the business is the technical acumen or technology acumen. So imagine, we are expected to have that understanding of the technology in every aspect of the process of the business for success of the business. So this kind of environment is what is expected from the students. So Andhra Pradesh has so many engineering colleges, and it's so surprising to see not even 12% or 17% or 12%, I think, are actually employable. And the interesting part is about 35 to 36% cannot be even trained. And most of the companies are training about 52% of them, whoever are graduating from engineering colleges. Andhra Pradesh being, has about 700 odd engineering colleges. Imagine only 12% are employable. And how about the 36% of the students who cannot be trained also? I mean, this is the education system, as the professors were mentioning, that we were only trained to study and to give exams and then answer their questions. But then there is no real practical, as the other speaker was mentioning. I never used calculus or trigonometry in our day-to-day life. So the employability rate has come down so much so that almost 80% of it, of the students cannot be employable. And one of the World Economic Forum said even the employees who are working right now, by 2015, they have to be upskilled again or reskilled again. And even Microsoft has done some research, and they also say in order to catch up with the latest technologies, the students and educators also, not because the technology is changing so rapidly. Madhu was mentioning that he started a manufacturing, he's getting into a manufacturing industry. The reason why, because there is no technology, there consistency. Every 5 years, 10 years, there is a new technology that is coming. So there is a need for upgradation. There is a need for upskilling for both students and and as well as educators. So as it is one of the top two second requirement is the technology adoption, the tech acumen. So it is from various facts, you could understand, I mean, the research that have done, that unless and until a student or professors or a team or, they're not equipped with the technical acumen, there is no way that we can survive in the future. Okay, so I would suggest, that the academia, or those teaching institutions and the students, they all have to have a certain framework in order to ensure that everybody, irrespective of whichever background, whether they're from science background or a maths background or from a history background, there is a need for that tech acumen. So there are about about 7 areas that I mentioned here. If you could see, there has to be a priority that need to be given to the tech acumen. And the priority, whether in terms of the technology or the tools, or or to help the academia to understand the importance of tech acumen, and therefore also there has to be enough investment that need to be done in the tech infrastructure, and then there has to be fostering industry partnerships. Unless and until the students, like in some of the villages or the towns, we see some of these celebrities coming and adopting the villages. I think the concept has to come where the corporates need to adopt, and students, or and then ensuring that they take the responsibility. So unless and until there is this partnership from of the academia, they're sometimes calling some CEOs and some industrialists to share the experience. That doesn't really help. The students are really lacking the practical exposure. Dr. Abdul Kalam ji was mentioning one point in time that 30% should be the studies and 70% should be the practical exposure. So unless, otherwise, if you see, for example, when we came, I did my first computer science studies in 1990, my 12th standard, 11th and 12th. We were the first batch in the vocational intermediate. We didn't had any previous batches. So teachers they themselves are the fresh learners. So they don't even know how to teach us because they just were the fresh teachers. So that kind of a situation is coming where the metaverse and extended reality or augmented reality or artificial intelligence. When this kind of scenario, even as one of the professors is saying, even the professors should be going to the industry to learn and to get themselves upgraded so that they can teach to the students. They also have to encourage the research and development of the students, to fund them, to help them to understand the latest technologies, and emphasizing that continuous learning should be there. So, as a last point, there has to be the fostering of entrepreneurship, because there will be no more government jobs left for the students. So there has to be, students or the youngsters should be equipped to depend on their own selves, on their own abilities to stand and to create their own value and to generate their own revenue, because they might not have jobs. They might have to be very dependent on themselves. So unless and until we train how many of the Indian communities are from the business communities? So everybody from all the backgrounds should be encouraged and should be trained in entrepreneurship, and should even the lecturers or the teachers or the academia should be training them from the school to fail and to help them not to really gaze them from the grades and the tests that they conduct, but having that real-time experience. Majority of the billionaires on the planet are even dropouts, as we all know. So there is a lot of these changes that need to happen. Techmark, my company, one of the areas that we are involved is in filling up one of the major gaps in the industry, that is to digitalize small businesses. The majority of the small businesses are not digitalized now. Okay, so what we are doing is we are training the students, and in partnership with GoDaddy, Red Hat, etc., Template Monster from US, and Weblium and Skill Universe, and giving them practical, kind of exposure. For example, the day they finish the training, they know what industry the small businesses they're helping, what research they need to do, how they need to take their business online, and things like that. The reason why I'm mentioning about Techmark is because we just signed an MOU with Dr. Christopher some time ago from Dubai. So we are partnering. They are helping us to get into the Emirates market and African market. So I thought I would give some perspective with reference to about the MOU that we exchanged. So these are the few thoughts I thought I would share with the students and the academia, and how important it is for us to build the technical acumen for our youngsters, our children, our students, because they are the future. So yeah, that's all. Thanks so much for patiently listening to me. I appreciate it.